It's officially October, meaning the spooky month has begun. Because of this, I figured that now would be the perfect time to take a look at Terraria Spooky Mod, a mod which adds a ton of new content to the base game, such as custom bosses, brand new biomes, and a whole lot more, which you're just gonna have to stick around to find out. Anyway, I hope you'll enjoy, and without any more wasted time, let's get into the video. Upon joining our world for the very first time, we were immediately met with a change in scenery. Instead of the lush green forest we're typically accustomed to, we were instead greeted by the vibrant reds and oranges associated with fall. And after taking a moment to get used to our surroundings, we chopped down a couple of trees where we didn't just get any old wood, but rather got ourselves old wood. From here, we decided to explore the left of our world, where we very quickly found ourselves entering the Crimson, where we proceeded to get, and I'm quoting the game, spanked by a face monster. This game has quite the interesting death messages, I must admit. After respawning, however, we decided to explore the other side of our spawn, where we came across the first custom structure of this world.
What's this? I might take over this place, actually. This looks really nice. What's the sleeping plant? Oh, hello. Oh, you must be new around here. You can call me Little Bone, and I offer advice on what stuff you can do next. Just stop by if you want to talk with me. Transport and advice? Okay, I want to see what advice is first. It seems you are still beginning your adventure. Just search around the spooky forest. There are a lot of different things you can find and make. Okay, what's transport? Oh, here, take my magical transportation pot. When you use this, it'll allow you to bring me anywhere on your adventures. I was hoping I could tag along and help you when you need. That's cool. So this is a full house. Wait, so this is already. Oh, it's missing a table. Okay, we'll have to add a table, but otherwise, like this is already a nice little house to begin with. I like this. I'll try to continue building in this style. Also, that's a big pumpkin. Can I get actual pumpkin? Nope. Okay. Probably should have kept it. It was nice decoration. Oh well. Yeah, this is a nice little house. I'm liking how this world looks really cool already. I like this. Continuing our expedition to the right, we came across a couple wooden chests containing mediocre loot before being involuntarily sent home by a vulture. And seeing as it was starting to get dark, we decided to seclude ourselves from the outside world in our brand new yet slightly dilapidated house, where we were introduced to the first custom mobs this mod has to offer: a putty slime, a zomboid, and an absolutely massive monster eye. Despite seeing all these new monsters, we had for some reason thought it would be within our best interest to leave the safety of our house and take a gander at a massive pit we'd come across earlier, when we were absolutely bodied by a fuzzbat. However, after returning to the pit, we made sure to very carefully descend downwards, as we have no idea what could be at the bottom or just how far down the pit goes. That was close. At least we were able to escape from that fuzzbat. Having learned absolutely nothing from our previous visit to the pit, we jumped down a second time and were able to just barely survive a singular zomboid who was waiting for us, when we noticed another custom structure off to the side of our screen. And after making our way to said structure, we were absolutely stunned by the sheer amount of loot waiting for us inside, with one of these items being a custom magic weapon, which, trust me, kind of sucks. After a little more exploring, we discovered another of these abandoned structures, which, just like the one before, contained a ton of loot along with another custom item, this time being an accessory which, despite providing stat increases to magic weapons, was still unable to make our Necromancy for Dummies book even remotely useful. Wanting to loot one more structure before heading out of the mines, we searched a little longer when we came across another chest which contained a somewhat decent early game weapon, the pump action leaf blower, which we immediately tested against a giant fuzzbat to great success. After returning home with all our new loot, we decided to make some extra housing to allow more NPCs to spawn, along with building our own spooky mansion. However, while trying to raise the ceiling by a singular block, we ended up tabbing to the wrong hotbar slot. What? No. What did I, what? No. Oh, what is that? No. What? No. Huh?
After our accidental run-in with Rotgord, we figured we were in desperate need of upgrading our gear, so after another quick trip to the mines, we managed to make ourselves a full set of gold armor, bringing our defense from an abysmal 0 to a respectable 16. Confident with our new gear, we went ahead and made a quick arena and summoned the Rotgord for technically the second time, though this being the first time we did so on purpose. Even still, it turns out that our gear was nowhere near good enough for this fight, as we died so quickly I didn't even need to make a jump cut midway through this voiceover. Not knowing what to do next, we headed over to our good friend Little Bone to ask for some advice.
Now that you have some decent gear, I've heard stories that an old rotting gourd the size of a house once looked over this biome. Breaking the pumpkins that grow here might allow you to find him. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we found him already. A couple times, as a matter of fact, actually. Knowing we needed to further upgrade our gear, we managed to find and kill another custom mob, the Zomboid Warlock, where we managed to get both the Warlock's cloak along with a summon. But as that was clearly not enough, we returned to the mines to collect several life crystals along with getting ourselves a cloud in a bottle for some greater mobility. With these slight upgrades, we once again returned to our arena, not to summon the Rock Gourd, but rather the Eye of Cthulhu. For this fight, we used our pump action leaf blower to deal virtually all of our damage, where we surprisingly managed to get to the second phase in the incredibly quick time of exactly 60 seconds, and from here we realized just how short our arena truly was, taking several hits which would have been completely avoidable had we made our arena ever so slightly longer. That being said, the Eye of Cthulhu simply couldn't handle our turbocharged leaf blower, and we found ourselves beating the first boss of the world, granting us not only a refreshing hit of dopamine, but also the Shield of Cthulhu. Alright, now that we've beat our first boss, let's see what the little bone here has to say. Now that you have some decent gear, I heard. Yeah. Same thing as last time. I guess it's time to try at least. We've got the dash. We've got a decent weapon, I guess. We also have our little warlock skull to help us. So, see how this turns out. After that failed attempt, we went ahead and crafted ourselves an old moss bow, which we used in tandem with our pump action leaf blower to defeat a couple more Eyes of Cthulhu for some extra money. And it's a good thing we did this, as while we were building our spooky mansion the very next day, we were paid a visit by the traveling merchant, who at the time was selling the Grey Zappinator. Okay, hear me out. This might actually be a good investment. I'm gonna get that. I've had wild amounts of success with the Grey Zappinator, especially in Shimmer Block, one of the hardest challenges I've done. If not the hardest challenge I've done so far on this channel. This might actually be a really good item to get our hands on. So after consuming several mana crystals, we ran back to our arena to summon Rock Gourd, only to realize that in our haste, we had completely forgotten to purchase mana potions from the merchant. Blaming our death on the lack of gear rather than our lack of skill, we decided not only to get ourselves full health, but also a full set of jungle armor. So we headed over to the jungle, as one would assume, where we ended up coming across another custom biome, the cemetery. While the cemetery is rather important for progression, we had come to the jungle for a specific purpose, so we for the most part ignored this new biome and continued to mine our way into the jungle, when suddenly we were informed that the game had other ideas. So after a rather tedious 150 slimes later, we found ourselves facing King Slime, whose health was rapidly depleting from our various weapons. However, you already know that this would not be a Crispylink video without at least one boss fight being completely thrown for zero reason whatsoever. 17 health! 17 health! Yeah. Yeah, sure, why not? 17 health, that's literally one hit, my guy. Anyway, after blundering King Slime, we finally managed to enter the underground jungle, where we were immediately greeted by having a stinger ever so kindly lodged right into our frontal lobe. But after respawning, we managed to execute a rather successful raid of the jungle, not only gathering all the necessary components for crafting ourselves a full set of jungle armor, but also reaching the highly coveted 400 HP. And no, this has nothing to do with horses. With our upgraded armor and increased health, we went back to finally squash the Rock Gourd, where we found ourselves getting near perfect Zappinator RNG, managing to delete entire chunks of the Rock Gourd's health within mere seconds. I'm sorry, but that was just way too quick. That was just way too fast. That was very quick. Let's see, what did we get? Moldy chunks, gourd carving kit. An armored charm of the flies summons a swarm of flies around you over time. Up to 10 total. Each active fly will give you 1 extra point of defense. When you get hit, the flies will die and respawn after 30 seconds. Oh, that's so cool. Wait, hold up. That's actually really cool. Oh, wait. Also, since we killed the Rock Gourd, we can talk to this guy again, Little Bone. If you go past the tropical jungle, there's a dark and foggy cemetery. That's where we were already. We went to that. So that's the cemetery. Okay. You can probably search for some loot there. Okay. So the place that we were at earlier is cemetery. And I saw there's this little, like, shrine looking thing. Yeah, so we can make an EMF reader. 5 Cryptane bar, 2 iron bars for an EMF reader. But I don't think we should do that yet. I think we should still try to get better gear. I'm also gonna fight the Rock Gourd a couple more times because we've got plenty of spawners, and we can get ourselves some cash hopefully and see if there's any more drops, because I just want to see if there's anything else that we can get from this boss. So let's do that real quick. After defeating the Rock Gourd for a second time, it appears as though there aren't any other drops we can get from this boss. However, we decided to take a moment to mess around with the gourd carving kit to see exactly what it is that it does. Oh. Wait. That's such a silly little face. Hold up. Wait. And so that we can put in the candles. We have candles somewhere. One of these chests, right? We do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh dear, that is something. That that is so weird. Okay. They have such silly little faces. Oh, that's amazing. Anyway, once we were done messing around, it was time to make ourselves some brand new weapons using the moldy chunks we had gotten from the rock gourd. Jerry's Book of Stinkology. It's crazy. Alright, let's see. What does this do? Oh, that's cool. Summons flies. I wonder if those deal damage or if that's just like visual, but that might actually be very useful for the Brain of Cthulhu. Wanting to put our theory to the test, we headed over to the Crimson and summoned the Brain of Cthulhu, where we discovered that we were in fact correct to assume that the Book of Stinkology would be the ideal weapon for this fight, as the projectile created can pierce through enemies, preventing the creepers from getting anywhere remotely near us for the first half of the fight. Once all the creepers were defeated, however, the Brain of Cthulhu proceeded to undergo what we can only describe as mitosis on steroids, splitting into 4 identical copies of oneself. And while this would normally be a problem as it gets progressively harder to identify which of the brains is the only real one, our creepy candle accessory from earlier has a chance to inflict burning whenever we use a magic weapon. And soon enough, the Brain of Cthulhu, much like the Rot Gourd, was defeated in seemingly record time. That has to have been one of the fastest Brain of Cthulhu fights I've ever had. That was quick. Oh my god. That was just simply unfair. Having beaten both the Rock Gourd and the Brain of Cthulhu, we once again found ourselves turning to Little Bone to see what we should do next. I have heard rumors that a giant powerful spirit who resides in the swampy cemetery challenges those who it deems worthy, and I think you might be worthy enough with your current strength. Alright, that's a different message from what we had before. Wait, there's a giant grotto infested with spider-like creatures out in the world somewhere. You may just be strong enough to explore it. You can find it deep underground. Okay, so somewhere in this world there's a giant spider grotto. Okay. Well, if anyone's arachnophobic, I will make sure to put up a warning if/when we find that. That night, we went ahead and crafted ourselves an EMF reader and returned to the cemetery to summon the next boss, the Spooky Spirit. Despite this fight not being fast-paced, a lot of these attacks rely heavily on spawning lots of projectiles, making it rather difficult to dodge, and unfortunately, on one of the easiest attacks to evade, we found ourselves getting beamed out of existence. Seeing as we weren't even able to bring the Spooky Spirit to half health on our previous attempt, we returned to the cemetery the following night for our rematch, and while we did manage to get past the half health milestone, we quickly found ourselves once again involuntarily donating another tombstone. Okay, it appears as though I am in desperate need of reforging my gear, so I think I'm going to get the Goblin Army to spawn real quick. But as it turns out, having the Goblin Army spawn is much easier, or at least faster, said than done. However, in the end, the goblins did eventually arrive, where they proceeded to get absolutely slaughtered by our Grey Zappinator. With the goblin army finally defeated, it was time for us to delve into the deepest, filthiest, and most disgustingly abhorrent corners of the underground with the hopes of finding the Goblin Stinkerer. And after finding the diseased-ridden goblin, we made sure to farm several rock gourds along with killing the Brain of Cthulhu a second time in order to reforge our accessories in preparation for our rematch against the Spooky Spirit. Upon returning to the cemetery, we made sure to drink a couple potions in order to give ourselves the best possible chance of survival, and using a combination of our Grey Zappinator and our trusty Book of Stinkology, we managed to get further than ever before. While there were some attacks which we had not encountered in our previous attempt, such as this forehead laser somewhat reminiscent of Moonlord's phantasmal death ray, we managed to keep our calm and finally brought the Spooky Spirit's health to 0. There we go. Oh, and we got the yellow barrier key. What's in the bag, though? Let's see, Rod of Hands, magic weapon. 20% increased movement speed. One hit, you will sometimes release homing spirit particles around you? Wait, hold up. That might be good. Oh, I want to see this Rod of Hands. Oh, that's weird. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's also kind of weird, if you ask me. Now that we got ourselves the yellow barrier key, I think we should go see what's going on down over here. How do I have to like, what do I do? Oh. Okay. I guess that worked. You cannot place blocks or use various tools. Your vision is very limited. Yeah, I can very much see that my vision is limited. I wish I could see more. That would have been nice and fantastic. But we got 5 gold from that? Once we'd entered the catacombs, it became quite obvious that this place was massive. However, seeing as loot was few and far between, along with the fact that it was extremely dark all the time, it was not as exciting of a place as I'd hoped it to be. However, I will give credit where credit is due, as the decoration in this place was honestly very well done, and the mobs here were quite unique as well, such as Big John, the Dumb Zomboid, Zomboid Pyromancer, Zomboid Suspiciomancer, along with the various other mobs which we came across while we were down here. Of the loot we had managed to find, we ended up getting a whip called the Cat O' Tails, a magic weapon called the Rod of Ensnaring, a melee weapon called the Harvester's Scythe, a poison trap which was used on ourselves, and the Old Hunter's Crossbow. We also got several items dropped from the mobs themselves, including several pretty useless accessories along with a weapon called the Baby Rattle. Oh, what's this? Slow Baby Rattle? Oh, what is that? 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 What have I summoned? I don't like that one bit at all. What is this? I feel like if I touch it, I'm gonna die. The baby, it is crying. Yeah, I don't trust that baby. Oh, it's looking at me. Oh, that's fantastic. If I go to the baby, okay. Oh, what the hell was that? Oh, I do not like that at all. That was Nope, I'm not doing that again. After the baby incident, however, we decided to get the hell out of the catacombs and instead try fighting Queen Bee in preparation for our inevitable fight with Skeletron. But for some reason, the game just really loves starting slime rains whenever we're in the jungle, and seeing as my ego was still hurt after our last run-in with King Slime, I figured that this would be the perfect opportunity to test our new weapons while also getting some revenge. Now, I understand that this test wasn't all that scientific as we had an actual mage setup, but the DPS from a Rod of Hands completely blew the rest of the competition out of the water, dealing upwards of 300 damage per second while you'd be lucky to break 100 with the other weapons. Using this item, we were able to quickly defeat King Slime, where we once again turned our attention to the jungle. Despite our Rod of Hands having done so well against King Slime, we found it rather difficult to use this weapon against Queen Bee as she was constantly flying around in an open area. However, we were able to occasionally get a couple seconds of use here and there whenever she was close enough to the ceiling. Seeing as we weren't always able to use the Rod of Hands, we mainly used the Book of Stinkology along with our Grey Zappinator, where we managed to take down the Queen Bee in just under 2.5 minutes. However, seeing as we're mainly using magic weapons, we made sure to summon and defeat the Queen Bee several more times in order to get ourselves the bee gun, and upon doing so, I decided to make the decision to retire the Grey Zappinator, as I feel it's a little overpowered and want to spend more time focusing on the custom weapons this mod has to offer. So, after saying farewell to our beloved weapon, we headed to the left of our world to find the dungeon, and after chatting with some random old dude, we found ourselves facing the Calcium Guardian himself, Skeletron. For the first phase of this fight, we made sure to target Skeletron's hands by using our bee gun, which when combined with our hive pack turns our simple little bees into Vespa Mandarania, otherwise known as the Murder Hornet. With our bone-thirsty army of bees, we made quick work of Skeletron's hands, prompting him to repeatedly eject skulls from his own with the hopes of stopping us dead in our tracks. Get it? Because we'd be dead? You know, just forget that I said that. From here, we mainly used our Book of Stinkology to attack Skeletron from a distance, but whenever he started spinning, we would switch to our Harvester's Scythe for some succulent melee damage, and after a couple minutes of dodging skulls, we found ourselves reigning victorious, granting us not only access to the dungeon, but all the loot inside. Having just beaten Skeletron, we decided to make our way down into the dungeon. However, seeing as we already have an impressive roster of weapons, we did this not so much to upgrade our current gear, but rather for monetary gain. And while we were looting, we got ourselves the typical items you would expect, such as the Muramasa and the Cobalt Shield. However, while we were down here, we also stumbled across several custom biome chests pertaining to the Spooky mod. And while yes, we still need to beat Plantair to open these chests, at least we now know where they are in case we manage to drop their respective keys later on. Once we were done looting the dungeon, however, we proceeded to head back home to see if our good friend Littlebone had any new advice for us. Down in the underworld beneath the jungle, you can find a really creepy biome filled with eyes. I do not like it there because it feels like I am being watched, but you look strong enough to explore it. Okay, so somewhere like around here, we need to make our way down to. So I think we should just make an actual elevator and then make our way over there and see what that biome's all about. So let's do that, I guess. After bridging for what felt like seemingly forever, we eventually found ourselves entering said biome of eyes, where we almost immediately came across a strange structure with a chest on top. Oh, a chest. Let's see what's in the chest. Oh. I see Z's over the chest. I don't trust it. Oh, the chest creature? Wait, what? Wait, you need some sort of steak? That's weird. Not knowing how to open these strange chest creatures, we continued to explore our surroundings, where we were introduced to several new enemies. Mr. Handy, the Manhole, Bat and Eye, along with the Tortumer. However, upon continuing to the right, we also came across an NPC inside of an extremely grotesque looking house. Whoa there, I was trying to take a nap. You must be a pretty curious adventurer to have found your way down here. Cauldron and quest. Okay, let's do quest first. Alright. So, there are 4 different flasks you can make that I can combine into something that will be helpful later. However, I am unable to gather the ingredients needed, so I'll need your help to find them, and then craft the flask with them. To make this first flask, you'll need the following. 5 Day Bloom, 5 Blink Root, 5 Moon Glow, 10 Purification Powder, and 1 glass bottle. Alright, let's see what Cauldron does. So you've never heard about my cauldron, huh? Well, if you obtain a sentient heart, you can combine it with specific weapons to turn them into something a little crazy. Sentient hearts are dropped by large and strong creatures, so make sure to look out for them. Okay. So, I guess we're gonna need to get those ingredients, because that sounds pretty cool. However, wanting to explore a little further before going on Little Eye's quest, we continued to the right where we came across a massive purple egg along with a giant nose shrine. And while I have no idea what the egg was about, the giant nose reminded me of an item I came across while checking some crafting recipes. The Cotton Swab, a boss summon which can be used at the nose shrine to summon Mako. Wanting to fight Mako before entering hard mode, we went ahead and crafted ourselves the Cotton Swab, along with building a quick arena. And after drinking our potions, we proceeded to summon quite possibly one of the strangest bosses I've ever seen. A giant flying purple nose. Seeing as Mako is a giant nose, it should come with nose surprise that almost every attack this boss has involves mucus in some way, shape, or form, and while I do respect the dedication, I must admit that I was relatively grossed out during this boss fight. Unfortunately, despite getting Mako relatively low, we weren't able to defeat him on our first attempt, meaning we'd have to fight him a second time, and while we were on our way back to the nose shrine, we came across a giant Tortumer, which upon death proceeded to yield us a brand new summon, the Gore Staff. With our brand new summon, we went back and summoned Mako once more, where we mainly used the Book of Stinkology along with our B-Gun to deal the majority of our damage, and seeing as we now had a general idea of Mako's attack pattern, we found ourselves not only dodging a decent amount of his attacks, but also defeating him once and for all, granting us a sentient heart which will be incredibly useful for us once we enter hard mode along with a couple other items I decided not to use. Before we went to fight the Wall of Flesh, we decided to head back to the Valley of Eyes to complete Little Eye's quest, and it's a good thing we did this because doing so rewarded us with chest monster food. With this item, we were able to open one of the chests we'd previously come across, yielding us a mage weapon called the Retina Staff, which would prove to be incredibly valuable to us in not only fighting the Wall of Flesh, but also for the start of hard mode. From here, we went back to the Little Eye to see what his next quest for us was, when we were ever so kindly greeted by the 3rd slime rain of this world. And while I was not necessarily what one would call happy to be dealing with another slime rain, at least we were able to get a quick sneak peek at what our brand new weapon was capable of doing. And I must say, I was rather impressed. After defeating King Slime, we once again returned to Little Eye to complete the second quest, where we got a goofy little hat along with a weapon called the Screeching Face. Oh, what is that? What is that? Oh dear God, what is that? Oh! It's like the baby. It's the baby all over again. I can barely move. I am holding down D. I am holding it down. I cannot move. I am dashing right now. I am dashing right now. Oh, I can't jump. This is awful. I'm upset. Why do I have to get all of the worst items? Why? Anyway, after the incident, we completed the 2 remaining quests from Little Eye, allowing us to open the remaining 3 chests where we got the Fleshminster, the Eyelasher, and the Seer, all of which I'm sure are decent weapons for their respective classes, but will most likely be collecting dust during this playthrough. Having completed all 4 of Little Eye's quests, we decided that we were finally ready to fight the Wall of Flesh. So after extending the bridge a little further to the left, we tossed a guide voodoo doll into the lava, something I'm sure Daniel wasn't quite pleased about. For this fight, we made sure to use our Book of Stinkology in order to quickly dispose of this swarm of hungries, while switching to our brand new Retina Staff to deal tons of damage to the main boss. However, as I said in the first part of this playthrough, it's not a Crispylink video unless I somehow throw it into our run for literally no reason, and today is no exception as I somehow forgot to dodge the eye lasers at the very end of this fight. Seeing as we got so close to entering hard mode, we knew it was only a matter of time before the Wall of Flesh fell. So after heading back to the bridge, we once again sacrificed our guide in the pursuit of progress. And while we did take a moment here and there to get rid of the hungry, we mainly spent our time exclusively targeting the boss with a Retina Scepter, which apparently doesn't use any mana once all 5 eyes are already active, something I find to be quite interesting but also incredibly useful. Thankfully, we didn't have a repeat of our previous attempt and we were finally able to take down the Wall of Flesh, not only bringing us into hard mode but signaling that our adventure was officially halfway done. Actually, wait, hold up. Now that we're in hard mode, I want to quickly see what Littlebone has to say. We haven't really talked to Littlebone in a little while, so let's see. Now that you've defeated the Wall of Flesh, you should return to the catacombs. Apparently, if you can wake up and defeat the guardian in the deep catacombs, she will allow you to explore further. Well, that's interesting. So, I have to go back to the catacombs, I guess. Not really too enthusiastic about that. After making our way back to the catacombs, we stumbled our way into a suspiciously large room which we previously hadn't come across, where we found another barrier preventing us from going any further, and upon looking up, we realized why. Oh. That's a giant sunflower. Oh, you're sleeping. I'm gonna have to wake you, aren't I? Okay. How do I do that? Okay, so I did some research, and it looks like we're gonna have to make ourselves a heavy brick. Which, to do so, we're gonna need 15 clay, 2 souls of night, and 2 souls of light. I didn't want to have to do research on this, but I've been here for quite a few minutes just trying to attack, to try to do anything and everything I could, and nothing was working, so I had to do some research. I don't know how you're supposed to figure that out for yourself, but I guess we have to do that now. So, after gathering all the materials needed, along with actually crafting the heavy brick itself, we headed back to the catacombs in order to wake the giant sleeping plant, who clearly was not pleased with our actions as she proceeded to give us an entire TED talk before blasting a beam of pure, concentrated energy straight into our cranium. Given how this fight started off, we unsurprisingly ended up dying almost immediately, but what I was surprised to see, however, was that we were only dealing a singular damage per hit, and wanting to see if this was just a bug, we decided to try this fight for a second time, where we eventually realized that this low DPS was directly caused by our minion, who we immediately disabled after this realization. Despite finally being able to deal damage, we still had yet to learn how to dodge Daffodil's various attacks, resulting in us once again dying relatively early on. However, while preparing for another attempt at this boss, we were greeted by the first custom event this mod has to offer. A rave has started in the cemetery? What does that mean? Wait, hold up. I gotta go check this out. This is... I want to see what this is all about. Upon heading to the graveyard, we immediately came across an NPC called the Music Man, who was selling a bunch of developer masks along with various vinyl records, which, despite us not buying any, I feel is a pretty cool feature this mod has to offer. We also came across an incredibly suspicious skeleton who was trying to sell us a random assortment of items such as the strange video game, the analog TV, a flavor enhancer, an arcade cabinet, a creepy dog photo, a dreadful clarinet, along with some other items which I'm not quite sure if they mean anything. While we weren't able to find any other NPC shops during this event, we were able to talk with some of the partygoers who proceeded to make an ungodly number of skeleton puns, and I'm not sure about you guys, but I personally found this quite humorous. Anyway, once morning came around and the partying came to an end, we decided that we should probably get ourselves some quick upgrades before attempting another fight with Daffodil. So after mining some hellstone, breaking several altars, and working our way up through the various hard mode auras, we managed to craft ourselves a full set of adamantite armor which greatly improved our defense. Looking for a better weapon, we ended up coming across a naturally spawning Crimson Mimic, and while this fight did take a considerable amount of time, we ended up getting ourselves the Life Drain, which was the item we were looking for, as we can combine it with our Sentient Heart from Mako in order to craft ourselves an AoE weapon called the Soul Sucker. From here, we made ourselves a quick mod farm for some money, more NPC housing for, well, NPCs, along with swapping out our lesser mana potions for greater mana potions and making ourselves the Charm of Myths. Feeling that we were finally ready to face Daffodil, we once again returned to the catacombs, managing to get into the second phase of the fight, where we found ourselves involuntarily playing a game of the floor is lava, except there is no lava and touching the ground instead results in a massive thorn ripping open your abdomen. Also, Daffodil apparently has a new attack which unfortunately ended up killing us right before we would have won. Knowing we were so close to winning on our previous attempt, we rushed back to fight Daffodil once more, where after narrowly surviving another of these solar death beams, we finally managed to prove that we were in fact worthy of looting the lower catacombs. Let's go! Alright. So you are powerful, fine. You may advance to the deeper catacombs. Okay. And you just go back to sleep. You don't die or anything, you just go back to sleep. Once we entered the lower catacombs, it became obvious that this place was just as big and dark as the previous section, and seeing as loot was once again few and far between, I'm going to quickly skim over the more important and interesting things we'd come across. First of all, the monsters here were different, following the general theme of flowers, such as Sunny, Marigold, Daisy, and Florence. These mobs also drop plant chunks which can be used to craft the same weapons that Daffodil drops, meaning that we technically don't need to fight this boss again if we don't want to. The catacombs itself also follow this flowery theme as well, with random flowers along with grass growing all over the place. There were also these secret tunnels which you could open using the occasional switch here and there, which was pretty cool, though pretty much all the rooms that they led to didn't have anything exciting in them. In terms of the loot we got, we managed to get an accessory called the Cross Charm, a melee weapon called the Bulb Bomb, and a really unique summon called the Hunter Soul Scepter. We also came across several other chests which didn't contain any weapons, along with plenty of trap chests which would either activate fire traps or send a boulder straight into your spine. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, but while we were exploring, we managed to find yet another section of the catacombs which was blocked off, which was a little strange as we hadn't come across any more boss rooms while we were down here. Anyway, after returning home from the catacombs, we decided to see if we could fight the mech bosses with our current gear. So we grabbed some potions and summoned the Destroyer, where we realized just how overpowered our Soul Sucker truly is when dealing with enemies with multiple segments, dealing nearly 10,000 damage per second given the right circumstances. Now I think this goes without saying, but given this absolutely ridiculous amount of damage, we were very easily able to defeat the first mech boss of this world. Seeing as we were able to defeat the Destroyer with such ease, we decided to try taking down the twins. However, seeing as there aren't lots of segments to abuse the AoE of our Soul Sucker, we instead found ourselves being humbled after getting turned into a rather large pile of ash by Spasmatism. Clearly needing better gear for the remaining mech bosses, we once again summoned the Destroyer in order to get enough hollowed bars to make a full set of armor, where we somehow managed to beat this boss even faster than the first time, having gotten up to 30,000 damage per second at our absolute peak. Now that we had enough hollowed bars to make ourselves a full set of armor, we proceeded to do just that, along with buying ourselves a crystal ball, crafting the golden shower, and even making an artificial corruption in order to get ourselves the worm scarf. But right as we were about to summon the twins, we were instead greeted by the blood moon, which I'm not going to complain about too much seeing as we were able to get ourselves the top hat, making us so stylish that we very well could have become the 10th man ever to exist on the front cover of a Vogue magazine. However, what I am going to complain about is the fact that right after the blood moon ended, the game decided that now would be the perfect time to start a solar eclipse. So, after hiding away in our mob farm the entire day, we decided to give the twins another go. However, despite all of our new upgrades, we somehow ended up doing worse than our first attempt, dying before either boss could reach their mechanical form. Because of this, we made sure to add a couple heart statues, heart lanterns, campfires, and even a bass statue to the arena, where we managed to take down Spasmatism with relative ease, with Retinazer following not long after. Having but only a singular mech boss remaining, we once again returned to our arena the very next night in order to summon the General Grievous wannabe, Skeletron Prime. During this fight, we made sure to constantly lower Skeletron Prime's defense using the Golden Shower, though we mainly used our Soul Sucker to deal the vast majority of our damage, even managing to take down the Laser Arm in the process. While this fight was relatively straightforward, we found ourselves somehow surviving the Spinning Head of Doom not once, not twice, but maybe 3 times during this fight. I'm not quite sure if the 3rd time necessarily counts as it was only very briefly, but regardless, even after all of that, we managed to not only survive, but to take down Skeletron Prime entirely, causing the jungle to grow ever so slightly restless. Anyway, now that we finally beat all 3 mech bosses, let's see what Littlebone has to say. Now that you've defeated all those giant robots, you can probably return to the Creepy Eye Valley. Apparently there's a skilled alchemist who resides in the Creepy Eye place who can create a special substance. Okay, so you're definitely talking about Little Eye here, who we have talked to, but there was a quest line that Little Eye mentioned after the one that we already did. So I guess we should probably go down there and take a look at what he wants us to do now. Having been instructed by Littlebone to return to the Valley of Eyes, we proceeded to do just that, whereupon talking with Little Eye, we were given a highly corrosive substance called the Acidic Concoction, along with a quick legal disclaimer in case we ever try to sue for emotional and physical distress. However, seeing as we have absolutely zero regard for both our mental and physical well-being, we ignored Little Eye's warning and headed over to the Giant Egg to see what this new item does, where we ended up starting another custom event called the Egg Incursion. Despite being incredibly undergeared for this event, we managed to complete the first wave, albeit with a not-so-healthy chunk of our health missing. And seeing as we still had a lot of this event left, I must admit I was getting a little worried. However, seeing as we are very clearly the main character, we somehow managed to complete the next several waves of this event despite getting incredibly close to death numerous times. In fact, our plot armor was so strong that we somehow ended up breaking the game entirely, physically not being allowed to move past wave 6. Didn't I just kill them all? Why isn't this working? Why isn't the next wave starting? I'm confused. Alright, so I have no idea what all that was about, but the game just kind of stopped on wave 5 or 6, I think it was. So I restarted my computer and the event kind of ended. So instead of starting it back up again, I'm going to get some more gear because I think we're going to need a bit more upgrades. And hopefully I won't have that same problem happen because I don't know what that was or if it's fixed, but yeah, no. Wanting to upgrade our gear, we headed back to the jungle to mine a bunch of chlorophyte along with gathering enough life fruit for max health, and after crafting ourselves a full set of chlorophyte armor, we returned to the Valley of Eyes to fight the egg incursion a couple more times, and I say a couple because the game decided to break once more, soft locking us with waves 2, 7, and 5 respectively. Seeing as one of the definitions of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again while expecting a different result, we decided to experiment with different variables to see if we could somehow fix the game. So on our very next attempt, we decided to see what would happen if we only used the golden shower, which, I'm not kidding you, for some reason actually fixed the problem. I have no idea why this worked, but hey, I'm not gonna complain. Now that we could actually play the game, we worked our way up through all the waves we've previously completed, but on wave 8 we were introduced to a brand new enemy called the Vesicator, who not only was a lot larger and had a lot more health, but would occasionally spawn in extra monsters for us to deal with, making this wave particularly annoying. However, with our upgraded gear, this was no major problem as we were able to very easily cruise through waves 8, 9, 10, and 11, leaving us with only a singular wave remaining. On this final wave, we found ourselves not only dealing with another Vesicator, but also a ton of aerial mobs who oftentimes got in our way, getting us closer to death than I was personally comfortable with. In the end, however, we were able to take down the Vesicator, and not long after found ourselves reigning victorious, though the message in the chat alluded that we weren't quite done yet. Wanting to see what would happen if we used the acidic concoction a second time, we proceeded to do just that, where we were immediately met with not the egg incursion, but rather a worm-type boss called Oro and Boro. Seeing as this is a multi-segmented boss, we decided to use our Soul Sucker for this fight, managing to deal a lot of consistent damage whenever the boss was on the screen, which surprisingly, there was a lot of time during this fight where the boss just simply wasn't there. After a couple minutes of dodging and weaving the various attacks, along with occasionally standing still and doing pretty much nothing, we managed to enter the second half of this fight, where Oro and Boro decided to split into two separate entities, working in unison to ensure that we took as much damage as possible, and seeing as we now had to pay attention to two separate mobs and their own unique attacks, the pressure really started to amp up. However, after getting an absolutely diabolical combo on Boro, we found ourselves locked into a 1v1 with Oro, and seeing as Oro was already quite low, we somehow managed to defeat this boss on our very first attempt. Let's go! Oh, we got another sentient heart. That's cool. Alright, there's a treasure bag. Let's open this up real quick. Ooh, ICU. It's a ranged weapon. Leecher. Summon. Living arteries. Ooh, that's good, that's good. I saw some recipes that involve these. Alright, the undying embryo. Upon death, you will have received and given high life regeneration and defense for a short time. Revive ability has a 10-minute cooldown before it can activate again. During this cooldown, you gain 8% increased damage and critical strike chance. Wait, so this is just... That's actually pretty cool. That might be useful. I don't know what this is. Do you need, like, a special, like... Oh! Okay. So... This is good. We may switch to a ranger after this. I mean, look at this weapon! It's not that fast, all things considered, but... My god, this is... very cool. I think we should try to see what the mage weapon is, if that's the range weapon. Seeing as the living arteries we obtained from this fight are used to craft the other weapons dropped from Oro and Boro, we were able to craft ourselves the Venom Gasser along with making an upgrade to our Retina Staff. Okay, so this is the upgraded version to our Retina Staff. And you've got 8 eyes now, and they're blue. Oh, and they blow up? Oh, that's cool. And then we also have the Venom Gasser, which... Oh, that's using, like, no mana at all. How much mana is that? 1 mana. Oh, that's kind of cool. Okay. Alright, we're definitely going to have to use these weapons. These are really cool. I like this. Alright, let's see what Little Bone has to say now. ... That's wonderful. Wait, you don't have any advice? Huh. That's the first time I've seen that. Okay. Do we just play the game as per usual then? Just go fight Plantera with our new gear? Normally he has at least something to say, even if he just repeats himself. Figuring our next step should be to fight Plantera, we returned to the jungle in order to make an arena, and seeing as one of the bulbs we'd previously come across spawned in a naturally large cave, we decided to have our fight here. However, we quickly realized that we probably should have cleared out a little larger of an arena, seeing as we ended up dying immediately after bringing Plantera into her second phase. Now, I understand that this next little segment of the video is not all that relevant to our overall progression, but while on our way back to the jungle, we somehow managed to get ourselves not 1, but 2 jungle keys, along with also getting a desert key all in the span of 11 minutes and roughly 100 kills. And seeing as I'm an absolute nerd, I decided to plug in all the numbers, where it turns out that this was not only statistically improbable, but had roughly a 1 in 100,000 chance of happening, which despite being incredibly rare, is nowhere near as unlikely as the time we got 2 Spiffo plushes back to back in our Zelda items only world. Anyway, now that we probably used up all of our luck on getting these biome keys, we returned to the jungle in order to expand our arena before summoning Plantera once more. And seeing as we now had a little more room to maneuver, we were able to use a combination of our Venom Gasser, the Golden Shower, and the Living Retina Staff in order to take down the self-proclaimed Queen of the Jungle. Seeing as we've already come across the Jungle Temple while searching for Chlorophyte and Life Root earlier, we decided to make our way over while we had at least some time remaining on our potions, where we proceeded to summon the next boss on our hit list, Golem. For this fight, we elected to main our Golden Shower and Venom Gasser, as both weapons are able to pierce through all of Golem's segments at once, where we managed to take down both hands and even getting into the last phase of the fight. However, we unfortunately weren't able to beat Golem on our impromptu of a first attempt and had to make our way back to the temple for a second time, and after building a quick yet proper arena, we found ourselves once again reigning victorious in our efforts. Nice. Oh wait. Orange barrier key? Used to open the orange catacombs barrier? Oh! I was wondering why I couldn't get through that barrier. I couldn't find a single boss room, but that's because it was locked behind Golem. Okay. Well, now we have to go back to the catacombs. See what that's all about. So, after making our way back to the catacombs, we proceeded to open the third and final barrier, entering a massive chamber with a giant flower pot sitting in the center. Realizing we'd entered a boss room, we explored our surroundings where we came across two chests, each containing several bags of freaky fertilizer, which when used near the giant flower pot summons the sixth and final custom boss this mod has to offer, at least for now, Big Bone. Going into this fight, I had no idea that our good friend Little Bone had a big brother, let alone a big brother who wanted us dead. So needless to say, this fight took me by complete surprise. And to make matters worse, Big Bone is an actually somewhat difficult boss, having fast-paced attacks leaving zero room to mess up, along with occasionally spawning healing flowers which you have to take down all the while dodging his various attacks, or else you may find yourself losing all the progress you've just worked so hard to obtain. Seeing as we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into when we first started this fight, it was, or at least should have been expected, that we ended up dying somewhat early on, dealing hardly any damage in the process. However, for some unknown reason, despite seeing how the previous attempt went, we figured it was in our best interest to head back to the catacombs for a second attempt. But while on our way, I accidentally took a wrong turn and stumbled into a room I'd never seen before, despite having thoroughly explored the lower catacombs earlier in this playthrough. It's a strange box with a weird aura emanating from it. Will you open it? I know what Pandora's box is, in terms of, like, Pandora's box. So I can only assume what it is, and if it's anything that I assume it's gonna be... Yep. Waves. And sure enough, as soon as we opened Pandora's box, we found ourselves facing yet another custom event. However, seeing as today is just not my day when it comes to events, the game decided to break on the very first wave, preventing us from being able to progress any further. However, seeing as we, much like Pandora, couldn't suppress our curiosity, we headed back to the catacombs to give this event a second try, where we managed to quickly plow through all 5 waves with relative ease, even including the final boss. Which honestly shouldn't be much of a surprise, seeing as we should have done this event immediately after fighting Daffodil, rather than towards the end of the game. Unholy Grail. You will spawn a blob of ectoplasm whenever you restore mana, up to 6 total. The ectoplasm blobs will fly away and home in on nearby enemies after a few seconds. The damage of each blob scales based on how much mana you restored. Okay, that's interesting. I was kind of expecting a little bit more, not gonna lie. With Pandora's box defeated, we made our way back to fight Big Bone for a second time, and while we were technically able to get further than our first attempt, we ended up getting completely humbled, leaving us with no more excuses and having to accept the fact that we were going to need better gear if we wanted to beat this boss. Seeing as we were still in Chlorophyte armor, we decided that needed to change, so we returned to the dungeon not to fight the lunatic cultist, but rather to farm ectoplasm for a full set of Spectre armor. However, while we were down here, we also managed to get both a black belt and a tabby, and seeing as we already had a pair of shoe spikes, we decided to go fishing in order to get ourselves some climbing claws. From here, we crafted ourselves the Spectre armor, the Master Ninja gear, and even the Avenger emblem for some extra damage. However, seeing as we were also in desperate need of some new weapons, we also crafted ourselves several naughty presents in order to fight the Frost Moon. Having seen the true potential of the Razor Pine during our Zelda Items Only challenge, we made it our goal to get this weapon. However, I clearly underestimated how long it would take for us to get this item, as it took an entire 5 separate Frost Moons and a total of 19 Everscreams before we managed to get it. Oh, and we were also able to get the Blizzard Staff along with a pair of Festive Wings on that very same night, which I find to be pretty cool. I don't have enough money for this. Absolutely guaranteed. Okay. Yeah, sure. With all of our new gear, we once again returned to the catacombs to face Big Bone, and if we thought the Razor Pine was overpowered earlier, combining it with our Spectre armor was simply just something else entirely, consistently dealing over 2,000 damage per second. Given our raw strength, we were very quickly able to get Big Bone into his second phase, where we were introduced to several new attacks, but let's be honest for a quick second, I don't think a couple new attacks here and there can really protect you when your health bar is depleting this quickly. And sure enough, in no time at all, we finally found ourselves defeating Big Bone. Let's go. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, what is... well, oh, well, that's a death animation if I've ever seen one. But let's go, finally. All it took was us getting the Razor Pine. That's all we needed to do. That's all we needed to do. Anyway, let's see what's inside the bag. Quick Disciple's Mask. Fire off homing skull wisps while you are flying or running. The rate wisps are fired and their damage scales with your current speed. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then we've got the Skull Smasher. 164 melee damage. Very fast speed. Extremely strong knockback. Left click to quickly... Sorry, I'm having a stroke. Left click to quickly throw the hammer a short distance. Hold down right click to swing the hammer around you and charge it up. Once fully charged, release right click to throw the hammer. Okay, hold up. I want to see this. And then we can... Oh. Alright. That's pretty cool. I think we should fight Big Bone a couple more times in order to see what mage weapons we can get, but this is a really cool weapon. This is like the much better version of the Paladin's Hammer. So after casually beating Big Bone for a second time, we managed to get ourselves the weapon we were after, the Flame Orb Staff. Oh, and we got it! The Flame Orb Staff uses 25 mana. That's quite a lot. That's a lot of mana. Left click to cast a large spread of fire bolts that bounce off of tiles. Right click to unleash a high damage fire beam that homes on enemies. Okay, hold up. I need to see this. Okay, this apparently homes on enemies as well. Oh, yeah, it does. Okay. That could be really useful. Wanting to make ourselves a couple upgrades before fighting the Lunatic Cultist, we went ahead and crafted ourselves both a Celestial Shell along with the Hero Shield, which honestly probably wasn't even all that necessary, seeing as once we returned to the dungeon, we found ourselves absolutely decimating the Lunatic Cultist health at unprecedented speeds. Okay. That fight was just way too quick. The right-click ability on this weapon is just way too overpowered. I'm sorry. If I don't beat Moonlord on my first attempt, I'm actually a disgrace, because this is simply way too overpowered. That dealt way too much damage. Despite having absolutely shredded the Lunatic Cultist, we seem to struggle quite a bit with the pillars, dying 4 times to the Vortex Pillar, 5 times to the Nebula Pillar, and an additional 2 and 3 times to the Solar and Stardust Pillars respectively. And while this was a little worrying, I still had hope that our inevitable encounter with Moonlord would side in our favor. During this final fight, we tried our best to evenly distribute our damage between all 3 of Moonlord's eyes. However, this didn't really go to plan, seeing as the homing on our weapon ended up taking out the left hand prematurely, meaning we now had to deal with the 2 remaining eyes, all the while dodging the various attacks from the true Eye of Cthulhu. Despite this slight inconvenience, we were able to take down the right hand without any problems, though we did almost end up getting eviscerated by the Phantasmal Death Ray not long after. But thankfully, mere moments away from death, we were able to take out the top eye, not only saving us, but also exposing Moonlord's core. From here, we made sure to distance ourselves far enough to where we didn't need to worry about the true Eyes of Cthulhu while staying close enough to deal consistent damage. And while I wish this fight was more climactic than it was, our Flame Orb Staff was simply too overpowered, defeating Moonlord in an incredibly quick time of 2 minutes, signaling the end of our journey. If you enjoyed watching this video, please consider subscribing and turning on the notification bell, as that not only helps the channel grow, but is the best way to be informed whenever I post another video just like this. Anyway, thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Rusty Cowbell, 13 summon damage. An ancient cowbell with a mysterious origin. Alright. Let's see. What's this? Oh. No! No! Not another one of you! Please! Not another one! I've had to deal with the baby and the screeching face before. I don't want another one. Please. Wait. I thought I saw it. Oh! Oh dear. Oh. Oh no. Okay. 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 No. You can stay away. You can stay away now. I don't need you here. I don't. 5, 4, 3. What do you mean? 2.